You're fishing right out of your costume, okay?
Ready to get started?
You got solid?
So, my name is Ken Trasker. I'm the Dean of Instruction here at the college, and along with Beth Steiger, we're the co-founders of the Entrepreneurial Center, which is hosting this event along with many of the local businesses. We're very proud and honored to have all of you here. This is really in part of our broad vision of bringing local community businesses and entrepreneurship together. Part of this event is also an evening event, which we have a number of students pitching ideas tonight to a number of judges in promoting entrepreneurship. The other part is we have an evening event, which Dr. Zimmerman will also be hosting, so you are all most welcome to that as well. Before I do a formal introduction of our guest speaker today, I wanted to make one quick announcement for all of you to know. The Gogebic Range Business Mentorship Initiative is hosting a Mentoring for Progress program right up here in this center on the 24th of April at 5 o'clock. And one of the things that the community is trying to do, continuing to try to do, is bring together businesses and individuals as part of a mentorship initiative. So the intent is really to bring those individuals together. And I think there's probably a lot of, if not a whole lot, like already there are 130 people in there that would be great mentors. So if you're interested in that sort of project, please do attend. That's April 24th at 5 o'clock. So without further ado, we have about an hour and a half with Dr. Zimmerman, so let me take a moment and introduce him. At the age of 7, our speaker was selling greeting cards door to door. By age 14, he owned a small international import business. By age 21, he was teaching at the University of Minnesota, and during the next 15 years, he was selected as the outstanding faculty member by 2 different universities. At age 36, our speaker retired from teaching and opened his own business and training company. That position has allowed him to deliver more than 2,000 training programs in 48 states and 22 countries. Of course, you may already be familiar with Dr. Zimmerman. You may have seen him on CNN or on the CBS Morning Show. And you may also have read his books, which have been featured on TV shows across the country. Today, you can expect a powerful, practical program that really works. That's why our speaker has been inducted to the Speaker Hall of Fame, an honor that has only been given to a few people in the last 30 years, including Ronald Reagan and Colin Powell. On a personal side, our speaker is a husband, a father, a biker, and a hiker who has explored everything from the jungles of Thailand to the icebergs of the Arctic Circle. So please help me in welcoming Dr. Alan Zimmerman. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. You mentioned biking, and I see lots of trails around here. Looks very exciting. I think of this one lady who was being pushed to change by her husband. Kept saying, can't do it the old way, got the change. And her boss said the same thing, got the change. She got so fed up by her husband, her boss pushing her, that her fed up feelings led to a strange funeral. There was a hearse going down the street, followed by a second hearse, followed by a lady leading a large, vicious dog. Dog had big fangs out of the mouth, spikes on the collar, vicious thing. Had him on a chain behind these 2 hearses. Behind the lady with the dog were 27 other people, marching like this in single file. Strange funeral. Another lady was passing by, couldn't figure it out, so she walked over there, tapped her on the shoulder, and said, I don't know what's happening, can you please explain? And said, yes, it is a strange funeral. You see, in that first hearse is my husband. Second hearse is my boss. And when my dog got loose one day, he ripped them apart. He killed them, rather tragic incident. The woman said, oh, I see. She thought about it for a moment and said, would you mind if I borrow your dog sometime? The lady said, get in line. And sometimes the world can feel that way. Business can feel that way, or change. And I would suggest 3 premises as we start today's program on the Leadership Payoff. My first premise would simply be this. During that story, I mentioned the word change several times. And as you probably know, all progress is the result of change. But how do you bring about that change is a key question. There's an answer. I would suggest this, that the only time people change is when they're confronted by strong leadership, or crises, or both. Hopefully we're here because today we want to change the best from ourselves, the best from others, because of strong leadership, not some kind of crisis. But you may be saying, well, I'm not the CEO. I'm a team member. I'm a supervisor. I don't have the power of the big names of leadership. I'd suggest my third premise, and that is we know very clearly, leadership is more about influence than it is title. If you have some kids, you're a leader, you influence them. If you have customers, interface with them, you influence them, you're a leader. I've learned over the years that there are 4 leadership things people do to get the big payoffs on the job and at home. Let me outline those 4 strategies quickly. We'll spend an hour and a half going through them in some detail. But before I do that, ask you this question. You've got a lot of experience. I met some of you this morning. I would guess in this room you have probably thousands of years of experience working in some business, some industry. So you know something about leadership already. Would you do this? Stand up for a moment. And just face somebody around you. Could be a group of 2 or 3, makes no difference. 2 or 3. And ask you this question. Based on your experience, what still seems to work well when it comes to leading others? What works well? Tell the person next to you. Go ahead, please.
What's that?
I actually thank you all the time. Nobody
And good. Stop you there for a moment. Just stay standing. Let me ask a couple of you. Over here, lady in the pink. What still works well in leadership, do you think? Yeah, certainly consistency. Or, man here at the end, what still works well in leadership? Lead by example, absolutely. Or the gentleman here. Yeah, good communication, yeah. You're all very nice, by the way. I asked this question in Key West a while ago. First response was money. I saw a great sign that said, money isn't everything, but it ranks up there close to oxygen. I can sit back down. I suggested 4 strategies. First one being minimize negative communication. I've never seen a highly successful, profitable, fun place to work, a lasting business that's got too much negativity. Secondly, demonstrate respect. Everybody needs and wants more of that. The person who said the most about respect was Rodney who? Dangerfield. I liked his definition of marriage. He said he knew there'd be no respect in his marriage. He knew that on the wedding day. His wife said he couldn't be in the wedding photographs. So lack of respect. The third strategy, engage their cooperation. Everybody's asking the same question. How do I get folks to do what I want them to do? All CEOs, managers, supervisors, parents ask the same question. How do I get them to cooperate? There is an answer. And number 4, make them feel important. Maybe I can't give them guaranteed lifetime job security. Maybe I can't give them all the money they might want to make. But at least we can make them feel like they count, they're important. Take it through those strategies. The first one, minimize negative communication. It's a tough one to start with, because to some extent we live in a negative society. It's not a put down of your state, Michigan, my state, Florida. I think we're the greatest country in the world. Unfortunately, our culture is a bit negative in communication. If you don't believe that, take on a job like mine for a day. Be a communication consultant. Listen to all the folks around you speak. Listen to coworkers, superiors, subordinates, customers, prospects, our kids, radio, television. And for one day, keep a record. How much of what you hear people say is inspirational, motivational, pumps you up, makes you feel fantastic? And how much is whining, griping, groaning, complaining? Okay, here we're negative than positive. I was in a place called St. Catherine's University a while ago. Out in the audience as you are. I take classes too. Lady up here was giving the program, gave a great definition of whining coworkers. Love her definition. She said, whining is anger coming through too small of a hole. But yeah, that describes some people. You might know the classic study I did at 3M some years ago. It made national headlines. We spent $1 million, 3 years of time on a big research project. They were curious, how do people talk in the average workplace in America? They went to big companies, small companies, manufacturing, retail, healthcare, all types of industry. Sat in the background, listened to people talk. Came to 2 conclusions. The first one, it takes 7 compliments to overcome 1 piece of negative feedback. Think about that. You criticize once, it'll take 7 positives to build you back up again. But over here, lady with the green outfit, what's your name? If I said, Kim, I'm just curious, where did you get that disgusting looking outfit? Oh, I'm teasing, of course. You look fine. That's 1. But if you thought I meant that, you wouldn't feel good about me embarrassing you, right? Or wouldn't feel good about the outfit. Ever buy a new piece of clothing, wore for the first time, and someone says to you, where'd you get that? And for a long time you don't feel comfortable wearing it. It takes about 7 compliments. But the second thing 3M found was this: in the average workplace, and I don't know if you're all average or not, but in the average workplace, people hear 9 times as much griping as they do positive talk. 9 times as much. If there's truth in that, no wonder there are troubles sometimes in leadership. We're out there working, doing fairly well, and hear mostly negative comments. In fact, the #1 job complaint, you all know what it is. #1 job complaint, you can do 100 things right and not hear a darn thing about it. One thing wrong, they're right in your back. Have you heard that before? Which is the dumbest way of leading, motivating anybody. We're out there working, doing fairly well, no one says a word. 1 mistake, up in her case. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but in the last 20-some years, I've been blessed by seeing at least 1 million people in audiences. And I've not had one person come up to me and say this, but not one person said, you know, Ellen, can't stand my job anymore. Headed up to here. All I hear in the job are compliments, compliments, compliments. And they love me over there. Nobody complains about that. But it's not just work that's negative. Our whole culture has negativity running through it. I do a 5-day retreat in Dallas, Texas every year for CEOs of organizations. And I ask the CEOs this question. When you go home at night, how do you relax? What would you guess is the #1 answer for execs to relax in the evening? What do you think they say? Yeah, drink, that's a good guess. That's #2. But #1, they watch TV. In particular, they watch the evening news to relax. I ask you a simple question. When is the last time you watched the news and felt good about the world? Almost always negative news. In fact, ever watch the 6 o'clock news and wonder whether we as a nation would survive the 10 o'clock news? Make it all sound rotten. Even the weather is negatively reported. You might say tomorrow, 20% chance of snow, which really means what? Yeah. Or might say partly cloudy, which means sunny. And I know you get this up in Ironwood. I grew up in Wisconsin. They changed the weather report years ago to make it more negative. Now it's bad enough wintertime. They no longer say it's 15 degrees above 0, it's 22 below 0 with... Now isn't that a blessing? Make it as negative as possible. The one I thought was the strangest, 8 years ago, my first trip to Scottsdale. heard about these beautiful Arizona sunsets. Finished my talk one evening, went outside the convention hall, gorgeous sunset. I turned to the guy next to me, I said, hey, look at the sunset, isn't it beautiful? You know what he said? He said, I think the pinks are a little bright. Then even God didn't get it quite right. The complaining's almost become a national pastime. I'll give you your first takeaway. I've been right in every place I've spoken so far. Look around any company. You'll find the most negative employees always find each other. They have coffee breaks together, lunches together. It's called the daily pity party. And quite simply, there's much negative talk in the workplace. The first effective strategy for leadership, minimizing negative communication, is shot down. Now, we don't do it sometimes directly or even consciously, but it comes out sideways in something called a killer thought or killer statement. Look at page 1 and 2 in your handout. I put down the 50 most commonly heard killers on the job. You go to some coworker and say, I'd like your help on this project. And the person says, that's not my... And you feel put down or pushed aside. You go to somebody else and say, got an idea for improving things. And they say, oh, we've never done that kind of thing before. We've always done it like this. I tried that back in 1986. You ever have to work for somebody like that? Suggest there's no way they can motivate you outside of fear. Now, obviously, on occasion, those can be legitimate comments, but most of the time, they are said to shut people up. Back off and don't rock the boat. The price of too many killer statements, quite simply, is killed off leadership effectiveness or killed off motivation. For the person you were standing facing a moment ago, take the next 60 seconds, talk about page 1 and 2. Which of those killers have you heard people say before? I don't care if it's at work, presently, or in the past, but you've heard before.
I've never You're too busy for getting by.
Just keep your mouth shut. I heard that this morning.
There's a famous street that always You're calling yourself Logan, please?
And do you finish it with a proverb?
Hey, let me stop you there for a moment. Just help me out. Which of those killers have you heard people say before? Yeah, pretty much all of them. Which ones most often? You're right, but. In fact, but's the most negative word in the English language. It's like performance review time. They say, overall, you've done a real good job. The next word is but. Other ones you've heard quite a bit. Got to study it further, give it more thought. Which means hopefully you'll forget about it. Any others? Not my job. Yeah, which means nothing. There might be a better way of doing it. Often think to myself, if we're going to be negative at work, at least be efficient. You have to list everybody in the organization. Whenever you bring up a new idea, say, look at the list. 12, 22, 41. Just quote numbers and save time. Let me show you what happens to performance of the people on your teams if they work in a place where they say too many of these or hear too many of these. The gentleman here with the blue shirt, what's your name? Michael. Have we ever met before today's program? First time with my seminar. That's good. Are you in good shape? Not injured in any way. And the name is Michael. Come up here, please, Michael. Thanks for volunteering. Take a stand right here. I heard Ken mention your mentoring program. One of my mentors is a guy called Dr. John Diamond. He's a physician in Australia. Made some world headlines on something called behavioral kinesiology. Some of you know the research. He says what people say to you on the job or think about you will motivate great performance or kill it all off. Some of you know the research. What I ask you to do in a moment, Michael, is put your arms out to the side. Not yet. I'll put my hands on your wrists, I'll push down. I want you to resist with all your strength. Doesn't matter if I'm stronger or you're stronger. I want to see your level of strength. Okay? Arms up like that, please. And resist. Yeah, that's pretty good. Stronger than he looks. This little lady right here. What's your name? Come up here, Renee. I need your help. Do you know Michael? Stand here and face him, please. I'm going to ask Michael to close his arms or his eyes in a moment. He'll close his eyes for 30 seconds. While his eyes are closed, I want you to look at him and think rotten thoughts about him. That he's stupid, ugly, incompetent, can't stand him, worthless. I'm sure he's a good guy. You just pretend those things about him. Could you do that for me? Good. During that 30 seconds, Michael, don't tell yourself anything or think anything. You just stand there. All right? So close your eyes, Michael. Look at him, Renee, and make up those private negative thoughts about Michael. That's 30 seconds. You can open your eyes. Did you think some of those thoughts? Good. I thought of a few things also. Please sit back down. Again, put up your arms there, Michael. And same thing, resist all your strength. You ready? Resist, please. Those are some juicy thoughts. And you're trying, aren't you? Yeah. You see what happens? Always happens that way. It's not some trick or gimmick. Dr. Diamond says it takes 30 seconds of thinking negative things about your coworkers, whomever, to kill off their performance, their energy, etc. People say, oh, he's just getting tired from the first time, wearing out physically. Not physical. All psychological. Try this. Would you all stand up, please? I'd like all to look at Michael right now. Everybody think rotten thoughts about Michael. He's incompetent, worthless, etc. You know he's a cool guy. You just pretend negative things about him as you look at him. You'll see why. And Michael, close your eyes again. All right, that's 30 seconds. You can sit back down again. Open your eyes, Michael. Like before, put up your arms and same thing, resist all your strength. Ready? Resist, please. Good. You see the difference? Why is he strong? Yeah, I whispered in his ear. I whispered something what? Positive, exactly. What did I say to you? And tell yourself, I'm great, over and over, I'm great. You see, if one person like Renee could wipe him out, you think 150 folks would cause a dramatic reaction like Michael wetting his pants. Yeah, cover it up. He should be the weakest, that third time perhaps is the strongest. Back in '52, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale wrote the book, The Power of Positive Thinking. Said in that book, the positive thought long enough can push aside all the negative influences. Psychologists said that stupid, Pollyannish, doesn't work, the positive thinking. Couldn't prove it really worked. Until a few years ago, Russia developed Kirlian photography, which shows the body does not stop here. There are layers of energy around the body that can be seen, that can be photographed. When you think nothing in particular, like I said, just stand there when Renee comes up, shows up as holes and as layers of energy. Renee thinks the negative, zaps him. Down comes performance. He told himself, I'm great, I'm great. It photographs a big orange-yellow halo around his body, puts up a shield, and literally negative bounces off. To me, that's scary stuff. It means you can go to work someday, having your own positive thoughts. Around some negative thinking coworkers, customers, whomever, shooting negative thoughts at you. By 12 o'clock you feel tired. 5 o'clock dead. A couple lessons here. Other people's thoughts can hurt your performance, maybe your thoughts hurting their performance. More importantly, the power to push it aside with your own positive input. Would you thank Michael for being a good sport? Let's try a variation. Lady here with the blonde hair, what is your name? Gina. We've not met before? Could I work with you? It's okay to say no if you're not willing. And your arms and back are okay? You step outside, Gina, and just close the door behind you. I'll bring you back in a minute.
I want Gina to hear this, obviously. I'm not a magician, not a hypnotist, not playing games with you. I'm a professor by trade. Research is my business. Things I'm doing here will improve the research. People say the only reason that Michael got weak, I set him up in advance. No, I didn't. Ask Michael about it. People say, oh, you're faking it up here. Swear to God, I'm not. Using all the strength I have. People say, well, I know the secret. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And Michael knew she was thinking negative thoughts. Because what if you don't know what the boss thinks? What your spouse is thinking? But if all their thoughts were hidden or private, would it make a difference? Absolutely. Your subconscious always reads the thoughts of others. To show you that, I'll bring Renee back in a moment. I'll check her arms for strength. If I who's stronger, just check the level. I'll ask her some questions. I'll ask her where she was born. I have no idea. Whatever she says, where she was born, think in your heads. Renee, Gina. Gina is a jerk. We'll see if your private thoughts can control her, what will turn on what's happening. I'll then ask Gina what job she does, how long she's been there. I don't know what her answer will be either. But if she says about her job, think Gina's great, Gina's great. I'll go back and forth 2 or 3 times. When I bring up where she's born, think she's a jerk, about her job, think she's great. Clear? Somebody invite her back in, please.
Yeah, Gina, if you come over here with me, if you can sneak your way through somehow or other. I told the group to do the same thing we did with Michael, just check your arms for strength. It doesn't matter who's stronger, but use all your strength to resist. Ready? Resist, please. Oh, that's very good. Doesn't help my self-esteem that much. I don't think we've met before. I want to get a bit more acquainted. I'm curious, Gina, where you were born. South Dakota. Okay, great, South Dakota. And push your arms back up. Just resist all your strength. Born in South Dakota. Ready? And resist. Hope you left South Dakota for good. Now you live in this area. Where do you work? At the hospital. And your job title is janitor for how long? Okay. At the hospital, great, for a year. Let's try that one more time. Resist, hospital 1 year, and resist. Good, good. He said in South Dakota. Whereabouts in South Dakota? Well, Mitchell. The Corn Palace, absolutely. I know where that is. Let's try that. Born in Mitchell. Ready? And just resist. If you're wondering what's happening here, nothing wrong with Mitchell. The reason the arms went down, whenever I asked you where you were born, I had them just thinking in their heads, pretending that Gina is a jerk. They made the arms come down. When I asked you how long you've been doing your job, they're thinking that Gina is great. Think she's a good person, good sport? You think so? Come on, one more time, Gina. Good. Raise right back up again. Let's give some hands-on practice. Stand up, please. I want you to find somebody that you don't work with as your partner. May have to walk a foot or two. Somebody you don't work with. Okay, good. Give you a chance for some hands-on practice. If you are injured and cannot participate, just say fast. Nobody gets hurt. But if you're okay physically, between the two of you, let's have the shorter one put your arms up so you can reach each other. Shorter one, put up the arms. Taller ones, put your hands on their wrists. Hands on their wrists. As the shorter ones resist with all their strength, push down. See how strong they are. Give it a check. See how strong they are. Yeah. Okay, good. You don't have to get them down, but just check how much strength they have. Those of you who had your arms pushed upon, just leave them at your side for the moment. The taller ones who did the pushing, look at your partner right now. Repeat after me these sentences. It may not be true, just say them anyway. So talk to tell your partner, you're no good. You can't do it. You're ignorant. You're stupid. You're ugly. You're over the hill. You're a wash-up. You'll never make it. You're a loser. You're no good. You're a mistake. You can't do it. You're a loser. You're no good. Check their arms again, please. Put them up. Give them a good push. Check the arms. You'll get one of two responses. Curious which one you got. How many saw the arms get weaker? Those 10, 15 seconds got weaker, yeah. And consciously you know they don't mean it. Trouble is, subconscious doesn't know, responds accordingly. Now about this time, there's always a couple of folks whose arms stayed as strong as the first time. Who'd that happen for? A couple, 3 people? Yeah, they're the quick learners in the group. They learn from Michael what to do. As they're being told they're no good, they're thinking, oh yes I am, I'm cool, I can do it. Can do that, should do that.
Always thinks that.
One more time, face your partner. Again, talkers, repeat after me. Tell them, I'm glad you're here. I believe in you. You're a winner. You're a leader. You can do it. You're the best. You're cool. You're excellent. You're great. I believe in you. You can do it. You're the best. You can do it. Check their arms again, please. But of course, you see the arms get stronger again. The lesson is very simple, but extremely important. If you're working with some people who are whining, griping, complaining, whine, gripe, maybe you're married to them, I don't know. But if you're working with those types, I'm trying to say as strongly as I can, do not let their garbage become your destiny. Must do exactly as Michael taught you. There's some counteracting positives. And one simple takeaway, I told the group this morning, I'd recommend taking that list of killer statements back to your workplace. When you have a staff meeting, you can bring them all together, give everybody a copy of those 50 killer statements and challenge them not to say one single one of those comments during the next hour discussion. Let's focus on what can work instead of what doesn't work. It's the first key strategy for effective leaders. They minimize negative communication. Turn to page 3. Second strategy says demonstrate respect. When we do research and ask employees, what do you want from your company? After you get by, well, a decent paycheck, on some benefits. After you get by the stuff, next thing people tend to say is, I want to feel like they respect me. And that being the case, an important word, but how do you do it? I find different levels of respect in the workplace, two of which do not work, one that does. Lowest level of respect would be illustrated by this, where the boss says, my open door policy is ruining my happiness. He said, people stop by all day long and complain. So he asks, how can I maintain the morale-inspiring illusion of an open door policy without actually having one? He's told, use your body language to create a protective bubble of unwelcomeness. To try this stressed out scowl. Can I poke in my head? Sure, he has an open door policy. It's a pleasure to see you. We value your input, as he growls. He says, stop by any time. Obviously not showing the respect. And perhaps the lowest level of respect would be called rudeness. If a prospective customer calls your place of business and asks a question about some product, and you give them the wrong information, it's just plain rude. You wasted their time. If we give someone a poor bit of service, just plain rude. If you go to your boss and say, got a question, like your answer, and she says, get back to you later, and it never does. Just plain rude. Lowest level of respect. For example, my favorite soft drink is Diet Coke, caffeine-free. Drink a fair amount of the stuff. I stopped one time at an airport concession stand. Told the lady behind the counter, like a Diet Coke, please, without ice. She said, yeah, fine. Gives me the Diet Coke with, I said, remember, no ice. Oh yeah, no ice. Picks up my Diet Coke, puts her hand over it, holds back the ice, pours in the container. And here's your Diet Coke. So gee, thanks. Could I have it without fingers next time? She had no idea she was being rude, non-professional, inappropriate. And lots of times when people are rude, they don't even get it. They're not consciously thinking that this behavior does not apply, does not fit, non-professional. One of my colleagues flying across the country on this plane, eating the meal they served him. Halfway through the meal, he finds this big bug in his food. Upset with that service. Gets off the plane. Writes a letter of complaint to the airline. Gets a nice letter back. Says, Mr. So-and-so, we are so sorry this happened to you. We pride ourselves on having the best service in the industry. This has not happened before. Please forgive us. It won't happen again. He felt good about the letter. So he put the letter back in the envelope it came in. Falling out of the envelope was a little handwritten note that said, send this guy the bug letter. What does that tell you? There have been lots of bugs, and that's a form letter. How rude can you get? A serious complaint gets a form letter. We're saying loud and clear, don't waste our time, bug off, leave us alone. If we treat anybody with that kind of respect, rudeness, whether it's your spouse, kid, coworker, customer, don't expect great leadership or great response from them. A little bit better might be apathy. They just don't give a darn. You ever go to the supermarket and you ask the clerk, where are the Cheerios? They say, I don't know, I don't know about you, but I think that's the point. They should know or could find out. Don't be bothered. Apathy, going through the motions. As you know, big difference between customer service, customer satisfaction. You can give your customers great service, have them deeply dissatisfied. Not the same thing at all. Picked up a Hertz rental car one time in Atlanta. Got good service, but I wasn't happy. The clerk knew all about collision damage waivers, frequent flyer miles, the gold Hertz card. Good service, but I wasn't happy. Because when she gave me back the contract, she said, thank you, ma'am. I thought, what's happened down here? In other words, just processing folks as quickly as possible. Next, no connection, no relationship. Apathy. If we treat people either one of those, don't expect, again, the leadership response you're looking for. What we need, the next page, is something called warmth. Warmth. It may be that you have a workspace, a cubicle, an office. I don't know where you work. But maybe a coworker comes to your desk, your cube, whatever you might have, and maybe you turn away from your computer, you put down your notes, you look them straight in the eye. They walk out and say, wow, I seem to count around here. He didn't check his email 3 times, didn't glance at his iPhone, and didn't look over the computer, didn't pick up 3 calls. I got total attention. I'm pretty important. That sense of warmth. And the best definition I can create for you comes from my Japanese customers. When I teach in Japan, they say, think of your coworkers, your teammates, and your customers as O Kayaku-san, which means special guest in your home. When a special guest, most of us clean the place up a little bit. Give them our better dishes, better foods. Want to feel that sense of warmth or specialness. Same thing people on the team should feel, that sense of warmth. When they feel that sense of respect, you made a big leap towards our next strategy in just a moment, which will be engagement. Let's try this one. Stand up again for a moment. Go back to your arms partner, whoever that was, your arms partner. All I want you to do, on the count of 3, is shout this sentence at your partner. The sentence is, what the heck do you want? Ready? 1, 2, 3. What the heck do you want? Good. Feels good. Now, probably no one's ever said that to you before. Yeah, sure. But my guess is lots of times you walk towards somebody at work or even at home, they're wondering, what the heck do you want? For just a moment, stay standing and talk about this. In your experience being out there in the business world, whether you call that education or manufacturing or healthcare, we're all in business of some sort. Which level of respect have you seen most often out there in the world? Rudeness, apathy, warmth? Which one have you seen most often? Talk to your partner.
Yeah, lots of rudeness.
Stop you there for a moment. Just out of curiosity, by show of hands, which level have you seen most in the world? How many say you've seen rudeness most often? Quite a few hands. Wow, maybe 50 hands or more. Or seeing apathy most often? Lots of hands. Or warmth? 1 hand. What I think is amazing, as Ken mentioned, I've spoken in 48 states, 22 countries, 2,000 organizations. I get the same answer every place. That by far the vast majority feel like they're doing business with apathetic or rude people. And that's the way most folks do it. It doesn't take much to one of the better organizations beating the competition, winning the business. How do you do that warmth? Let's show you. You sit back down for a moment. The third strategy I find in effective leaders, besides minimizing negative communication, demonstrating respect, is they know how to engage the full, willing cooperation of others. For example, if you go to church, I suspect you do, I do, a lot of folks do these days. If you go to a church service, you often get a bulletin, which announces the various activities coming up that week at church. The purpose of the bulletin is to engage your cooperation. They're announcing that so you'll come, you'll participate. It's all about cooperation. I'm looking for examples of how some churches tried to get cooperation but didn't say it very well. Here's some actual excerpts from church bulletins. This church wrote down this: the peacemaking meeting scheduled for today has been canceled due to a conflict. Or, tonight's sermon, what is hell? Come early, listen to our choir practice. Or Thursday at 5 p.m. there'll be a meeting of the Little Mothers Club. Or wishing to become little mothers, well, please meet the pastor in the study. Actual excerpts. Or the low self-esteem group will meet Thursday at 7 p.m. Please use the back door. Or the sermon this morning, Jesus walks on water. The sermon tonight, searching for Jesus. Or Weight Watchers will meet at 7 p.m. at the First Presbyterian Church. Please use the large double doors at the side entrance. Or my favorite one, the associate minister unveiled the church's new giving campaign slogan last Sunday. I up my pledge, up yours. Look at the next page. Page 5. What I've discovered is this: to engage cooperation of others, all the folks you ever work with have a preferred work language. They're all good languages, not a bad one amongst them, but they have a preference. If you're going to be a leader of people, you will know their preferred language and speak that to them and get amazingly better results. For example, I could tell my wife in French, je t'aime, I love you. I could say it to her 1,000 times, but if she didn't understand French, only spoke German, we'd miss each other. I'd have a good heart, good intentions, the right language in some parts of the world, but not my relationship. And so, 5 languages. Let me introduce you to those. Because as a leader, you have to speak all 5 somewhat effectively and decide which one would most bring out their best. First language, respect. I've talked about that briefly before. There are some folks who might say, I don't care how much money you pay me. If I don't feel respected, never get the most from me. It's a non-negotiable. You might circle on your paper the phrase that says keeping promises. It's a great way to show respect to somebody else. Keep your promises. Out in North Carolina, a group called Center for Creative Leadership done some great research. They looked at 21 executives who climbed the corporate ladder, almost the top, and became the CEO. Then they were fired, kicked out of the company. Compared those so-called derailed executives taken off the career path to 20 arrivers made all the way to the top and said, these folks made it, these didn't, what's the difference? Only found one characteristic all the derailed execs had in common, and that they called the unforgivable sin. When a person did that, didn't make it to the top. Unforgivable sin was they didn't keep their promises. Didn't do what they said they were going to do. Whereas the arrivers were the kinds of folks who said, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it. I'm reliable, dependable, I say it, I mean it. And we go to work with people. You know, if we don't like them or agree with them, if we know they mean what they say, they follow through. You tell one of your coworkers, I'll get back to you. Just made a promise. Whether right or wrong, employees, coworkers do keep score. To go back and say, oh, I'm sorry, I got busy, I forgot, does not show respect. If you have to write down every promise you make on a piece of paper, your Google Calendar, you write them down, you cross them all off. You tell one of your kids, come springtime, next summer when school's out, and go fishing and camping, have a great time camping and fishing. Just made a promise. A kid may tell you 15 times, Mom, you said fishing, Dad, you said camping, I heard you. Got kids that way? Never forget. I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. When I was in 2nd grade, we lined up every day on the playground to buy a milk ticket. It cost us 2 cents back then. One kid in the playground, Mike Fensky, forgot his milk money. I loaned him 2 cents. He has never paid me back. It's true. I look for him through unions, he never shows up. We never forget the promises. The difficulty is most of us are so busy these days. Easy to say, I'll look into it. I'll make a phone call. I'll do some research. I'll get back to you. Easy to say all those things, make all those promises. Hard to remember them all and keep them all. So for just a moment, the person you've been talking to back and forth, another question. The reason for talking is simply this. You got a lot of talent in this room, that's obvious. You can learn from each other, not just me. So for just a short 30, 40 seconds, 2 questions. First one, how good are you at remembering and keeping the promises you make? And secondly, what system might you use, if any, to make sure you don't forget? So first question, how good at remembering, keeping promises? Secondly, what system do you use? Talk to your partner, please.
You're the best. There's a reason you're sitting on the I must admit it's
Let's go to the second language. For some of the folks you work with, that'll be the main thing that turns on their motivational juices. They feel lots of respect in the job. Others might say, well, yeah, that's real cool, that's nice. Of course, I want respect, but more importantly to me might be the second language, belonging. I fit in. I'm part of the group, the family. I belong here. A sense of connection. Although folks might say, I could care less about belonging. Make me a virtual employee at home with a computer, never show up, I'll be happy there. For those folks who need a sense of connection or belonging, make them virtual, not the happiest camper. And one way you can meet this need, if that's their language, is showing genuine interest. Interest. In other words, I'm interested not just in the job you perform, but the person you are. We're in a people business, no matter what your job might be. And if you went to Amazon.com and looked up books on leadership, management, self-help, motivation, you'd probably find at least 10,000 books these days, Amazon.com. But 80 years ago, there was only one book on the market, not 10,000. It was Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends, Influence People. Like everybody else, I read the book. I didn't take the course, but read his book. And Carnegie makes a profound statement. He says, you can make more friends in 2 weeks by showing interest in others than you can in 2 years trying to get others interested in you. People are somewhat selfish, somewhat self-focused. You can forget about yourself temporarily, show some interest in that person. They'll often show interest in you, your project, etc. When I was at the university, I would do a intensive experiential class called the Peak Performance Boot Camp. It was 50 hours in 5 days. Begin at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, go to midnight, Wednesday through Sunday. It was so popular, waiting list for 3 years to get into the class. People came from the community, from around the United States, and sometimes people got in the class who didn't want to be there. They were forced to go by their manager to get shaped up in some way. Or some student might get some credits quickly completed at the university. They didn't seem to want to be there. I didn't have a lot of this interest in them. I would just kind of ignore them. One group had a guy maybe 27 years of age. Looked like my stereotype of a jock. He was certainly buff and muscular and in good shape, but he acted cool, aloof, and arrogant. I'd have him do things like you're doing, stand up, talk to this one, some activities, try things. He'd always sit back like, oh, Mickey Mouse, how stupid, talk to this one, talk to that one, how silly. He didn't say that, but he looked that way. I thought to myself, hey buddy, get involved or get out of here, don't waste my time. Being waiting list for this class, don't take somebody else's spot. Besides, who wants for a partner, like a bump in a log sitting there? Didn't say it, but thought that. Then 4 nights into the class, he makes his first comment to the group. When I was back in grade school, I was the puniest kid in school. I was picked on, beaten on, time and time again. I was so sick of being beaten on, began working out in weights. 2 hours a day, 3 times a week for the last 10, 15 years. And suddenly I realized something. Every bit of free time he'd ever had, he used to get his body in good shape. He'd achieved that goal. He was coming to class to learn about communication. He wasn't acting cool or aloof. For heaven's sakes, the guy was shy. Didn't have any communication skills. Thought I was sitting in the back, I'll kind of learn by listening. I understood that. Showed some real interest in him. I wasn't very effective at being his leader in that class. Another class had a woman about 250 pounds. And I thought to myself, hey lady, go on a diet, exercise, take care of yourself. I'm not proud to admit to you that I was that shallow, that judgmental in my thinking years ago. I'm just being very open with you today. That was my thought process, judgmental, 20, 30 years ago. And so I thought to myself, take care of yourself, go on a diet. And one night she said this to the group, I feel so good about myself. Last year we weighed 341, I'm down to 258 right now. And there went the judgment. But I began to realize I seldom have enough data to play God and judge somebody else. As I get a little bit wiser, but I'm finding out that so many of my snap judgments, first impressions, stereotypes have been wrong. Trouble is, it takes a split second to judge them, categorize them. It takes time to dig below the surface, understand something about them. And what I find is this is the magic. I take time to show some interest in people. Always get more from people. Doesn't mean you have to be their friend, their buddy, socialize, have beers together, but if I show interest in them, I get more from them. And so for a moment, another quick question. I don't care if you're a janitor, a CEO, if you're an educator, if you got a lumber business, whatever you're doing, interact with some people, whether on the phone or face to face. What are 2 things that you do or could do to show interest in somebody else? Maybe ask about their weekend, their kids, their goals, upcoming plans, their dreams. What are 2 things you do or could do? And to make just a small risk, face a different person this time. So face your chair towards somebody else and ask, what are 2 things you do to show interest in somebody else? The third language that turns on some people's engaged cooperation would be communication. Now, even though I know you've got people in your company who say, hate all those meetings, memos, emails, hate all that stuff. Lots of folks hate it more not knowing what's going on, want to be fully informed. I was speaking at a bank one time, a group of about 70 in the morning, another 85 in the afternoon. Morning group came in all ticked off and angry. I thought, what's going on? I didn't do anything yet. As we talked, they mentioned seeing the morning headlines of the newspaper that read, this bank will get rid of 1/3 of its employees the next 6 months. And that was the first time they had ever heard that news. Let me ask you, how important do you feel the public knows more than you do about your own company? Can't feel very respected or very communicated with. Keep them fully informed. I remember flying one time from Phoenix back to Minneapolis, and all the way as I was flying, 2 guys behind me kept saying, what if the employees find out? Keep this quiet a bit longer. What if the employees find out? I tried to eavesdrop as best I could. I thought to myself, how dare you? I was saying your staff meetings, our employees are our most important asset. Here they are lying to them. Don't expect great cooperation. Keep them fully informed. In one research study, we asked 5,000 managers across the country in all types of business this question. Here are 10 factors we think are important to bring out the best in employees, to motivate them, increase morale. Tell us, managers, bosses, what's number 1 most important, down through 10 least important. Got a fairly easy consensus. They told us that number 8, giving people full appreciation for work done, not that big of a deal. Number 9, this one of keeping people fully informed. And 10, help them, coach them when they need it. We said, that's interesting, thank you. Then surveyed the 50,000 employees managed by the 5,000 managers. Gave the same questionnaire. Here are 10 factors we think are important for employee morale, for engagement. Here the employees tell us what's number 1 most important, down through 10 least important. Again, a fairly easy consensus. Can you guess what the employees said? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, just the reverse. In other words, give us lots of appreciation, lots of information, help us out. The bosses said, no, most important things are pay, security, and benefits. Employees said, look, we're not stupid. We like more pay, who wouldn't? We like more benefits, of course, we're human beings. But we're not stupid. No, we wouldn't get all of that stuff. So if you can't give us all the stuff, at least you can make us feel appreciated, fully informed, what's going on, etc. So-called leaders were the 3 most important factors in the 3 least important spots. Keep them fully informed. When I teach in Japan, one of my Japanese professor colleagues, Dr. Shibatani, interesting character. He came to the United States, look at the way Americans communicate, wrote a big report, end of which he wrote this sentence. He said, you'd better keep your employees informed or they'll make it up. And it won't be flattering. I think he's right. The gossip in the hallway, often worse than the real truth, is keep them fully informed. The 4th language is fun. Fun. Where some people might say, I'll never get rich at this job. Get by, pay the bills, but never get rich at it. But like what I do. Have a good time over there, like my job. You have those folks who need some fun, something boring or mindless, and soon lose their peak performance. And just for the moment, for the fun of it, give you and your last discussion partner a brief quiz. Here's the way it goes. So you may not believe that there are 6 errors in this short paragraph. Study the paragraph carefully. You can read it as many times as necessary. Don't give up too easily. See if you can find all of them. Talk to your last partner. Got them all? Well, let's do it together. What's the first mistake? Belief. Number 2? 3, 4, carefully, 5, read, 6. 2 is okay, actually. 6 should read, that's the other mistake. Yes, good. Just there for the fun of it. But if you perceive that some of the folks you're trying to lead need a bit more fun, a couple things you can do. One says in your paper, behaving cheerfully. Something called the psychological law of attraction, which says if you're a grouch, you'll be amazed at how many grouches you meet every day. And if you're probably somewhat upbeat, probably say, yeah, most people are pretty nice, aren't they? Kind of get back what you send out. Being cheerful. I think one 14-year-old boy going on his first date, true story, not a joke, no big deal, pick up this girl, downtown, have a soda, a movie, come home. When he came home, Mom was curious, what was it like, his first experience in dating? So she asked, how'd it go, son? Oh, great, Mom, had a good time. She's glad to hear it. If you don't mind me asking, I'm curious what she likes about you. So I don't know, I guess I'm funny, I'm smart, good dancer, good athlete. She said, great, glad to hear that. One final question, what do you like about her? Oh, the fact that she thinks I'm funny, smart, good dancer, good athlete. I like to figure out those who make us feel good, behaving cheerfully, but also being a little playful. I know we have serious businesses, we have OSHA regulations, we got all kinds of things we have to deal with in this world. It doesn't mean we have to be grim every moment, to have some fun, some playfulness in the midst of the work. For example, all the airlines have been whining lately. We can't make any money, we're going broke. Give us a government bailout, help us out, we're going broke. I'm not trying to pick on them, it's a tough industry. But there's only one airline in 30 years that has made money in good times, bad times, always makes money. Who is it? And they don't have better planes or better people necessarily. They got one thing. They made sure their brand was filled with a bit of fun, playfulness. That's what made them stand out and continues to be profitable. Anybody flown Southwest? A little bit different. Again, a Southwest plane one time. The flight attendant making safety announcements. Most don't listen to safety announcements. But she says this, there may be 50 ways to leave your lover. Only 2 ways to leave this plane. You're smart, take out the safety card and follow carefully, all reading safety cars. We laugh, but she connects, builds rapport with that customer base. I spend my life traveling around the world. I'm blessed, thank God for my job, love what I do. And so I'm always in these restaurants I've never heard of before, looking forward to a decent meal. I stopped at this one restaurant, I asked the waiter what he recommended. He gave me the name of 2 other restaurants. I went, well, and he said, gotcha. Just teasing, give you good service. Of course, I liked him better and he got a bigger tip. It's that kind of thing. A few seconds here and there, making work a bit more fun. And the last language is called tangibles. I get something from the job. Obviously a paycheck and some benefits, but if I can't control that, I could do something, perhaps giving people some unexpected acts of service. If you know the research in customer service, if you do a bit more than the customer expects, they tend to tell other folks, come back more often. It's an obvious result of giving great service. That's more than they expect. And the same thing applies to leadership. If you do more as an individual in your company, a bit more with your customers, a bit more as a leader, they tend to go wow and give more peak performance back. As a simple example, I teach what I call rings of service. Out in California, San Francisco Bay Area, there's a Chevron gas station that sells 8 times more gas than anybody else in the Bay Area. 8 times more, that's a lot. Here's how they do it. At the basic level, they sell mostly what at the gas station? Gas. Now, if you went to the full service pump, what would you expect them to do? Pump the gas and maybe wash your window. That's what almost every full service station in the country stops giving service if you can find them anymore. They decide to blow away the competitors. So they have their so-called extra level of service. They go to the full service pump, 2 attendants walk up to the car, ask you to please step out. One gives a cup of coffee, the other one the morning newspaper. As you're sipping your coffee, reading the headlines, at their dream level of service, those 2 attendants go into your car, vacuum all the mats, wash all the windows, empty all the garbage. When a customer wrote on his comment card, is the closest I've been to an Indy 500 pit stop. But the cynics say, I bet they charge more, don't they? Well, yes, they do, but still sell 8 times more than anybody else. You see, an average business does the basics, gets the job done, it's over with. Those who are looking for better profits, or more loyalty, or better relationships, are doing a bit more than might be expected. So one quick question. What's one thing you do or could do in your present position, whatever that job might be, with folks you interact with? What's something you could do that might be a little bit more than they would expect from you? What's something that you might do that's a little bit more than they might expect? Tell your partner.
Pizza party. Pizza party. Snacks. Saturday working always better when I bring you in maybe I'll holiday. From here.
Okay, good, good. Let's go to the fourth and final leadership strategy. Look at page 6. As it says, make them feel important. Dr. William James, the father of American psychology, spent his whole lifetime researching what brings out the best in people, wrote this big book of research. There's an old man dying on a hospital bed. A friend sent him an azalea plant. He was weak, wrote a note of thanks back for the plant. As he wrote the note, said it suddenly dawned on him that the deepest craving in human nature was the craving to feel important, to feel appreciated. So that was so simple, so obvious, overlooked in all of his research. He was so startled, got off the deathbed, rewrote his book. Said that need to feel important is seldom if ever totally satisfied. Nobody gets too much praise, too much recognition. So if you go out there and make the folks you work with feel important, you will have power. Not power over them, but power with them. In very simple terms, there are not many folks who walk this earth who have as their mission in life to make you feel good. If you do that for your co-workers, whomever, you stand up from the crowd. You have power to influence their behavior. Works this way. Growing up in Wisconsin in the 60s, a hero to a lot of us back then was a guy called Vince Lombardi. I'm sure you know the name. He made Packer football coach. Had a player called Willie Davis. Over time they got separated. Davis went to the West Coast to play football, Lombardi to Washington, D.C. Lombardi was dying out there in a hospital. When Willie heard that, got on an airplane, flew all across the country, allowed just 2 minutes inside the hospital room. When he came outside, all the reporters were gathered there. They said, "Why did you come?" Lombardi's almost dead. He's semi-conscious. May not recognize you. Why did you come? Besides that, you're in trouble on the West Coast for cutting contract, cutting game. Why did you come? And Willie Davis said, no question about it, I had to come. That man in there is the only one who ever made me feel important. An amazing comment, because he was not known, Lombardi, for being touchy-feely. He was a rough, tough dude in lots of ways. It made the players feel like they were important. They want to give something back, namely legendary playing in the field, maybe deathbed visit. And so that being the case, if people crave that, it's one of the key strategies of leadership. What are some things you can do? Just give you a few ideas. Look, if you would, please, at page 7. I list 17 strategies. I'll highlight 3 or 4 of them. Because what we do not want, as it shows on the screen up here, I saw this sign hanging in one company where I was consulting. The sign said this: doing a good job here is like wetting your pants in a dark suit. You get a warm feeling, but no one else notices. Don't want that atmosphere at work. Few ideas. Number 3 says give public commendations. It's nice to tell somebody face to face, thank you, good job, I appreciate. But once in a while, a little more power doing it publicly. Then I say at the staff meeting, I want to thank so-and-so for her help on that project. Those extra hours they put in saved the account, kept them happy. Thanks for the extra effort. That's public. Or maybe I tell Ken something great about your performance, knowing he might go back and tell her. That's public. I find most folks don't like to brag about themselves, and that's appropriate. But they don't mind if you brag about them once in a while, with one exception. If you're leading an unhealthy work group and praise somebody publicly, the losers will rip that person apart. They'll say things like, what are you trying to do, suck up, brown nose, who do you think you are? How do you know if your group is healthy or not? Very simple. I pull you aside, your first name again, Aaron, right? And I say, Aaron, I like this and this. You mind if I bring that up next meeting? He says, sure, no problem. He knows it's healthy, knows it's safe. If he says, no, just don't say anything, just let it go, just don't say anything. He's afraid of the losers ripping into him. If you've got a somewhat healthy work group, do that once in a while, public commendation. Number 4, celebrate every success. What I mean by that is some people have jobs that are just jobs. Not every job is exciting or meaningful. Some jobs just have to be done. Find little things to celebrate. It might be, this is Aaron's 5th anniversary being at the company. And we take off 10 minutes to give everybody a round of Cokes or soft drinks and some cake for 5-year anniversary. Or maybe your idea at Head Start is streamlining the process, and we celebrate that by having pizza that night, everybody on staff. Or maybe your kid comes in first place in the local soccer tournament and give you a high five in the hallway. I find motivating folks know these things about their people and celebrate with their people. Number 5, attach something tangible to commendation. If I skip my next couple programs, which would be in Dallas and also in Milwaukee, if I skip the next 2 programs, and I came to your place of employment, your desk, whatever you have, a lot of you have been keeping tangibles around for some time. It might be your kid wrote you a little picture saying, love you, mommy, love you, daddy, and for 6 months it's been on the wall or in your desk. Or a customer wrote you a note and said, your service is impeccable, thanks for professionalism, your service is wonderful. You kept that letter on the wall for 2-3 months. Little tangibles. It's like you take your kid to the dentist for getting a tooth removed, and they get a sticker for being good. They're so excited, a sticker, a sticker, a sticker. Well, all adults are babies in big bodies. The kid's saying, look at me, look at me. I think your coworkers are saying, look at me. I think a smart person spends $5 of his or her own money once in a while. You're out shopping at Kmart, for example, thinking, hey, that'd be a nice thing to give Melissa, or thank Robert for his help in the project. Little tangibles. I think of one corporation, Foxborough Corporation, having a hard time surviving. The president told the engineers, like I say here, night after night, overtime. Develops a new product, save the corporation. After months overtime, an engineer solved the problem. Put together this little working model, this prototype. Right in the president's office, showed it to him. The president was thrilled. He knew it was the salvation of the company. Could have said, thanks, which is cheap recognition after months of overtime. Wanted to give the guy something. Went through his desk, the president found one thing, picked it up and said, take this. I really appreciate your efforts. What he gave him was a banana. While he had on his desk that day. But forever afterwards, the banana pin was the highest award in the organization. But there's one more meaning to that story. The president was smart enough to know you give something tangible, but you also give something immediately. What I see wrong in most places where I teach, consult, recognition they give the people often comes weeks and weeks and months after the accomplishment. If you know about psychology at all, long delayed recognition means almost nothing. Buying the person a cup of coffee on the day they achieve it might mean as much as a piece of paper on their wall 9 months later. Do both, something tangible, something immediate. Number 6, let's put it in writing. Whether you say it or write it, I'm suggesting take 3 minutes from your schedule, just 3 minutes. Write out 3 sentences, and this is not politically correct, but get this, handwritten, not email. They are so rare these days, people keep them almost forever. I remember one of my students at university when I was teaching. He would tell jokes in class, told stories, make class more fun. Not disruptive, but he'd tell nice stories. But he wasn't the smartest kid. I thought, I'll try to motivate him, bring out his best. Part of my job as I see it as a professor. I wrote a note that said, like having you in class, like your jokes, like your stories, you make class more fun. Then I wrote, think you'll be okay in college. Think you got some talent. Hang in there, got my support, you'll be okay. 16 years later, I'm at Logan Airport in Boston. Some guy was out, Dr. Zimmerman, Dr. Zimmerman. This man runs over. I want to thank you for changing my life. I said, that's very kind. Not sure what you're talking about. He said, the note. I thought, what note? Pulled out of his wallet, this ragged piece of paper, my note from 17 years before. You see, you don't know this. My parents used to call me a big, stupid dummy. He said I was too stupid for college. So I couldn't do it. So when I started, I was scared. Didn't know if I'd make it or not. Then he wrote me the note. Whenever I doubted myself the last number of years, taking that note out 1,000 times, read it again and again. A lot of power to influence someone's life for the better for 3 minutes of work on my part. Sometimes put it in writing. And go, if you would, to one more, number 13. Pages down, 13. It's a biggie. And then his comment on improvement. The TSA, if you travel on planes, they have a slogan these days, if you see it, say it. Even though we're a pain in the butt, it's a good slogan. If you see it, say it. For example, if I'm working with Aaron, he reports to me, we do a performance review, and I say, Aaron, I like this and this and this. I'd like to improve these 2 things. He says, sure, Alan, I'll do it. As soon as he makes a step in that direction towards improvement, got to comment. Wait till the next formal discussion, which may be 6 weeks or 6 months, he figures, I didn't notice, why should he care? Got to comment when you see it. I was counseling husband and wife one time, their marriage was in trouble. This woman said, can't stand the behavior, my husband can't stand the behavior, drives me crazy. This man said, yeah, she's right, need to change. He agreed to change his behavior. Got back together a week later, 2 weeks later. He said it didn't work, he didn't change. He said, honey, I did this differently and this differently. I see no change. She said, remember, I did these things differently. I see no change. It's rather demoralizing to change something, even something little. And have the other person notice absolutely nothing. If they don't comment, out comes the most negative question in leadership. And that is, what difference does it make? As my friends, let me counsel you. You don't ever want your coworkers, spouse, kids asking that question and not knowing the answer. They don't know what difference it makes. The effort they put in, they go from here, you saw the arms, right down to here, just enough to get by. I come with an improvement. I was talking in a workshop, and the lady said, yeah, it finally makes sense to me. I had an 8-year-old daughter. If she did something wrong, I'd right away say, don't do that. That's naughty, that's not nice, don't touch. Who do you think you are? I was proud of myself. Give the kid quick, firm, and consistent discipline. One time when she was 8, made a decision, goes for a whole day doing nothing wrong. Wasn't no reprimands. Didn't know she made that decision. Day went forward, got along fine. 8 o'clock, put her daughter in bed. 8:15, heard her daughter sobbing in the bedroom. Mom walked in and said, what's wrong now? Had a good day, now you're crying. What's wrong now, kid? Her daughter said, Mommy, wasn't I a pretty good girl today? Said the words went through her heart like a knife. Her daughter could do something wrong, she's jumping her right in the spot. But she could do 8, 10, maybe 16 hours of perfect performance. And said, I never noticed a bit of it. I think the same thing happens in a lot of companies, in a lot of jobs. People do a nice job day after day, week after week. No one ever says anything. They make a mistake. Someone jumps in their case and wonder where trust goes in the workplace. Comment on improvement. We're coming near the end of our time. So I want to give you a free gift. You picked up the book already. It's given to you, your sponsors, and I appreciate their generosity in giving to you. But if you want the book signed, I'll be around and sign that. But one of the biggest questions I've been asked over the years, people say, well, Dr. Zimmerman, this is good stuff, but how do you make sure you remember it, use it, and apply it? That's a good question. We all hear things, learn things, and forget things. I began writing some years ago what's called Dr. Zimmerman's Tuesday Tip, a weekly article. I know a few of you get my articles back here, you do, for example. And I've been just totally amazed. We went from a little operation of about 200 people to now being the second biggest newsletter in the world. Hundreds of thousands of people get my articles every week. Would you like a free subscription? I'll give you a minute right now. Rip off the last page of your booklet. It's called More Learning Opportunities. Very last page. There's a place to jot down your name, your email, that information. I promise you two things. First of all, what you're writing is confidential. We never share, sell information. The spammers have made life very difficult out there. They'll not do that to you. But secondly, promise something is fresh, practical, new every week. Topics such as motivation, leadership, communication, relationships. And it does have a place for a work email and a personal one. If you got two emails, you might put them down. For a simple reason, we get a lot of folks who will write in and say, did you not write an article this week? I didn't get one this week. Get this, I've never missed a Tuesday in 720 weeks. That's 14 years. I'm very faithful about that. What happens is spam filters change all the time. I used to get through as blocked or deleted, etc. You might put down both addresses. If you get two copies, then just delete one. The middle of the page talks about hiring, and if you think what I have to say is of some interest or use in your company, I'd be glad to send you information. If it doesn't fit, leave it blank. I mentioned those intensive peak performance boot camps that I do. I call them Journey to Extraordinary. I only do 2 of those a year. There'll be one coming up in Dallas in May. If you're interested in that possible intense program, I can send you information on that as well. When you finish that up, just put them in a pile in the middle of the table. That way they'll be easy to collect. Let's put it together this way. I suggested 4 leadership strategies. As I said before, it's much more about influence than title. All of us have leadership influence to some people out there in the world. We can all learn to become more effective influencers, more effective leaders. Number 1 I said was to minimize negative communication. Number 2, make sure that we are demonstrating respect. Thirdly, engage their cooperation by speaking their work language. And fourthly, make them feel important. You'll find some of that reinforced in the book. I put over here other books I've written, CD albums I've produced, programs such as that. Under pages 13 and 14, if you're curious, it describes what's there and the discounted prices on them. In fact, they come in packages for about half price. If you want something, they'll be available. But I'll finish with this. I certainly thank you for taking out of your busy day an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's hard. We're all busy these days, take away 2 hours. But I find that the most effective people are what I call selfish learners. They come to a seminar like this looking for at least one thing they can take back, they can practice, they can keep, they can use. And if you leave by saying, well, gee, that was good. I like this idea of the kinesiology. Try that with my wife tonight. I want to try this thing with speaking their language or making them feel important. If you leave with a clear keeper in mind, think about it a few seconds a day. Just think about it. You find yourself mastering those skills, moving in that direction. It's called setting a mini goal. And one man realized how effective mini goals happen to be. He was 65 years of age, going to retire in a few weeks. Set 3 goals for retirement. Want to play more golf, travel more, and spend more time with his grandchildren. Problem was, he had no grandchildren. He did, however, have 4 adult children, all married, but nobody was producing. So he brought all of his kids and their spouse together for Christmas dinner. He said, you'll be retiring quite soon. I've established some goals. I want to share them with you. I want to travel more when I'm retired. I want to play more golf. One more time with my grandchildren. He said, you know, I have no grandchildren. So the day I'm making this announcement, I've established a $1 million trust fund. Even the first couple blesses me with a grandchild. He says, bow our heads, let's thank the Lord for dinner. He prayed, opened his eyes. The room was empty. The moral of the story is quite simple. Coming to the leadership seminar is just step 1, getting information. Key thing is going back to work, taking some action. Hope you do. Thanks for being very good sports today. Appreciate it.
Dr. Zimmerman, that was phenomenal. And again, thank all of you for your time and energy and commitment to our programs. We certainly appreciate it. The college, all of us just really are grateful for all of your support. We hope to see some of you tonight. We have the idea about starting at 4:30, 4 o'clock, and then we have the evening event with Dr. Zimmerman. And all new content tonight, so it's a completely new program.
The evening event starts
at 6, so 4 and 6. So we'll have hors d'oeuvres and whatnot, and then after that, at the Maplewood Steakhouse is an informal gathering. It's a cash bar, so you're on your own there, but there will be some hors d'oeuvres and some appetizers, and a little bit more informal time with Dr. Zimmerman if you're interested in talking further. So again, thank you all so very much. Have a very nice afternoon. We hope to see you